Many people supported Hitler for a complex web of reasons, rooted in Germany's economic, political, and social crisis following World War I. After the war, Germany was burdened by the harsh Treaty of Versailles, which imposed heavy repressions, territorial losses, and a sense of national humiliation. Many Germans blamed the Weimar Republic, the democratic government established after the war, for signing the treaty, and for the political chaos that ensued. The Weimar government was seen as a weak and ineffective, unable to provide stable leadership or solve the country's mounting problems. The situation worsened dramatically after the Wall Street crash of 1929, which triggered the Great Depression. Germany's economy collapsed, unemployment soared to 6 million, and poverty became widespread. In this climate of displacement, people were drawn to extreme solutions and leaders who promised hope and change. Hitler was a charismatic speaker and a very skilled politician who presented himself as Germany's savior. He promised to restore German pride, tear up the Treaty of the Versailles, and create jobs. His message was tailored to appeal to different groups. Now, this is where... So, the reason I'm showing this is that there's a lot going on in the world today. I study history. We are seeing an increase in hate around the world. We are seeing chaos at all-time highs. Wars all over. All these different factions getting money from all these different countries through back doors in order to stir the pot. Most of the time, it's resource-based. 90% of the time, it's for oil, gas, diamonds, gold, wealth. It's the elite. This is how they, fear, hate, and division. This is where propaganda controls the masses. Now, in this little clip that I'm reading off to you, I want you to understand that there's two separate ways of looking at this. The beginning, which I just showed you, refers to what's going to happen once again, just like it has over the course since Israel literally became a state. And we have seen happen in Palestine over and over and over again. There has been major death, carnage, a sense of all of a sudden a cure. Different presidents over the years have come together and signed peace treaties. But small period of time goes by, the hate ferments, and it repeats itself over and over and over. Then you have the other side, which is where I'm now going to continue from. And this is what happens to other nations. Is happening to other nations. And the reason I started this channel. Let's continue. Workers were promised jobs and bread. Farmers were assured their land would be protected. The middle class was promised stability. And wealthy industrialists were told, this party would crush communism and protect their interests. Hitler's propaganda, orchestrated by Joseph Goebbels, was relentless and modern, using radio, film, posters, and mass rallies to create the image of Hitler as a strong, almost Masonic leader. The so-called Hitler myth, we'll call it the Canadian New Liberal Party myth. The Nazis scapegoated Jewish communities and other minorities for Germany's problems. We're seeing this in Canada. Any religion affiliated through any type of hereditary historical attachment to Judaism, to the Jewish, to the Israeli, is deemed bad. You've seen this on previous episodes where even the RCMP come out and they say that traditional family values are extremism and far right. These are the things that are pounded and repeated over and over, and they use all of the highest parts of the top institutions to promote this idealism, slowly brainwashing the masses into believing, well, it must be true. This channels public anger towards these groups and uniting people under a common enemy. The Nazi Party's parliamentary wing, the Sun, projected an image of strength and order, protecting Nazi meetings and intimidating political. Okay, so what the media does to the conservatives. There are people out there that say Polyev is a multi-millionaire, that he is a racist, that he, is against the handicap, that it goes on and on. When in actual effect, he is one of the few leaders that liquidated all of his assets, showed everything he had. He's not a millionaire, by the way, not even close. Has a handicapped child, gets along with everybody, has an incredibly diverse party. I like to say, and a lot of other people who studied history or are very politically savvy, educated, know that the Conservative Party of today is the equivalent of what the Liberal Party was 20 years ago. So which made many believe that the Nazis could restore law and order. Many Germans, disillusioned with democracy and fearful of communist revolution, saw Hitler as the only leader capable of saving Germany from chaos. Does that sound familiar to the new liberal leader of the same new liberal party? Here's a quote right out of Hitler's mouth. The eternal struggle between the people and the hatred amongst them is being nurtured by very specific interest parties. It is a small, rootless international clique that is turning people against each other, that does not want them to have peace. Now, I could fill in a few of these blanks and say it is being nurtured by a certain platform on social media. I could fill in a lot of the terminology that Carney and his liberal propaganda machine churn on the people. It is the people who are at home, both nowhere and everywhere, who do not have a soil where they have grown up, but who live in Berlin today, in Brussels tomorrow, Paris the day after that. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. The Nazis' message was flexible and broad, appealing to nationalists, conservatives, the working class, and even some aristocrats. Wealthy businessmen and conservative elites supported Hitler, believing they could control him and use his popularity to destroy the political left, but they underestimated his ambitions. Hitler's rise was not inevitable. It was the result of a perfect storm of economic collapse, political failure, skillful propaganda, and the exploitation of fear and prejudice. Millions supported Hitler because he offered hope, unity, and the promise of a strong Germany at a time when many felt desperate and betrayed. The combination of charismatic leadership, targeted propaganda, scapegoating, and the failure of other political parties to provide solutions garnered the Nazis to gain mass support and ultimately seize power. Now, most of the things that came of Hitler being able to take supreme power was because propaganda wasn't allowing the people to see that there were political voices that had cures for these problems. Kind of like what happened in the last election. The same party that has destroyed Canada somehow talked Canada into re-electing them again with this new charismatic banker who's going to save Canada from all the evils of his party. Now, where are you going with this, alias? Well, I'm going to dabble on what just happened yesterday. Our glorious leader has come out and is now saying he supports Palestine as a state. And he's laid down a bunch of, well, verbal diarrhea on how he's setting certain things must be met. These are the exact same things that the same leaders, the same people, the same affiliations, led by the globalists, the elite, have done since Israel came into existence. How many hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, do we have to watch, starve, die, be destroyed, and be filled with hate, repeating it over and over and over again before people finally say, wow, stop the madness? Dangerous and premature. Canada's Jewish advocacy groups decry Carney's Palestinian announcement. Prime Minister Mark Carney has said Canada will recognize the state of Palestine at the United Nations in September under certain conditions. Now, I have got a pile that I'm going to go through today. So I'm going to probably read mostly headers to try and give you all of the footage I think you need to see the sabotage, purposeful sabotage Carney has done to Canada. Now, why do you say that? Here's why I say that. This man is heavily invested in the United States. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about Canada. Has he signed a single trade deal yet? What happened to Europe? What happened to the whole Indo-Pacific? What happened to... Where is all of this diverse trade? He's been in power for how long? Nothing. Not until all of his investors have time to start to realize where Canada's going to start signing deals, then he's going to start signing deals. Until then, they're making billions upon hundreds of billions of dollars because Canada suffers. Another one. Legacy media silent as pro-Sharia imam kicks off Canadian tour. While legacy media and progressive politicians have loudly condemned Christian musician Sean Foyt and his biblical beliefs on gender and sexuality as he tours Canada, establishment figures have been completely silent about the Canadian tour of the Salifa preacher who touts an extreme anti-Western ideology to his followers. Imam Ustad Iba Tamana will begin a national tour on August 1st with support of the Islamic Relief Canada, whose parent organization has been accused of alleged links to terrorism. Now, let's get started, and I'm going to rapid fire a whole pile of video And of course, as always, I post all the links to everything that I do in the description below. I am not fake news. I am not propaganda. Sorry, so sorry. Just the facts, just the truth. Let's get moving.
In a stronger than expected GDP report this morning, what do you say to analysts who worry that lowering interest rates would actually lead to inflation?
Well, if that happens, then we just raise them. What you do is you lower them, and let's see if there's inflation. Right now, there's no inflation. Everybody thought there would be. All we have is billions of dollars of cash pouring into our country from other countries that took advantage of us for many, many years. You know, they were taken advantage of. We were like the stupid people that didn't know what they were doing. They took advantage of us. Other countries, friend and foe. And by the way, the friend was oftentimes much worse than the foe when it comes to trade. So if that happens, what you do is you raise your rates and you do what you have to do to stop inflation. But we're keeping the rates high, and it's hurting people from buying houses, and we don't want that. If for any reason that happened in a year or two, if there's some signs of inflation coming back, right now there's not. We have a great thing going. I think we're going to have the richest economy you've ever seen. We have money coming in that we've never even thought about at numbers that nobody's ever seen before. We have a deal with Japan where they're going to pay us $550 billion. We have a deal with Europe where they're doing $750 billion plus $400 billion plus $300 billion. And many other countries, it's likewise, you know, relatively, those are two big ones, but likewise. So we have a lot of money coming in, and we have no inflation, and we're very strong, and we should be lowering the rates. You know, each point that this gentleman keeps up costs us $365 billion a year. Think of that. 1 point, $365 billion.
Now, our own bank governor, what did he do? The same thing. This is the guy that allowed the Trudeau government, the Liberal Party, to print money, to find a new way to... We're not printing money per se. Previous episodes, I blow that all out of the water and lay the truths down. They created a whole new way in order to, well, enslave Canada through debt. Why? You will own nothing, and you will be happy. Trump knows this. He is against this. What did he say at the beginning of this remark? He wants people to own homes.
On the tariffs on India, are you still open to negotiate with India on the tariff front?
Well, we're talking to them now. We'll see what happens. Again, India was the highest, or just about the highest tariff nation in the world, and one of the highest, 100 points, 150 points or percentages. So India was one of the highest in the world. They had won 175%. And higher than that. You know, there's another higher one is Canada. They've been charging our farmers 200%, 300%, 400% for years, and nobody did anything about it. But India is one of the highest, so we're going to see. We're negotiating with India right now.
Now, on my previous episode, I kind of exposed the reality of what the entire supply management system really is. We are falling down the socialist mountain into the abyss of hell. We need to remove any idea of having a supply management system. We need to remove government from every aspect of our lives. Nobody knows better how to manage your money than you. You shouldn't be forced to purchase things you don't want. You shouldn't be forced to pay taxes on things you've already paid tax on. Now I am going to go through Carolyn Levitt's briefs, rapid fire.
And then on Israel-Gaza, there are some reports that negotiations with Hamas might not be continuing. Did you get any updates from Steve Witkoff on that?
I did. Special Envoy Witkoff is actively talking with our counterparts in Israel about that, and he wants to give some grace to the president so he can fully brief the president on what he's learning on the ground in both Israel and Gaza. But the president put out a very strong statement on Truth Social this morning, which I'm sure you saw, and he said the quickest way to end this entire conflict, the humanitarian crisis that we've seen, and the crisis in Israel that of course started on October 7th when Hamas brutally kidnapped and raped innocent Israelis, that terrible terrorist attack, is for Hamas to surrender, to release all of the hostages, and to end this conflict. And that's what the president wants to see. He's made that very clear. But the special envoy will be in Gaza tomorrow, as I shared with you previously. Josh.
Can you give us a little more clarity on the tariff timing? You said that the reciprocals will take effect tomorrow.
Yes.
Does that include the new auto rates, for instance, on Japan, Korea, the EU? Is this all coming effective tomorrow?
So some of the countries you just mentioned, Japan, South Korea, they have bespoke trade deals that the president cut, which, just to backtrack for a second, Josh, we promised that the president would negotiate with countries all around the world to cut tailor-made trade deals depending on those countries' challenges, how badly they've ripped off the United States of America and our manufacturing industry and our workforce in the past. And he has done that. Of our 18 major trading partners, 2/3 of those trading partners have a deal. We've sent out 17 letters to countries around the world. And the rest of those countries that either do not have a deal or have a letter, they will be hearing from this administration by the midnight deadline tonight. So yes, tomorrow, August 1st, the reciprocal rates will be going into effect. If more deals are cut between now and midnight, I will never count out the president. You've seen him do it before. He cut 3 deals in one day very recently. So we'll see what happens. I do know foreign leaders are ringing his phone, realizing this deadline is a real thing for them tomorrow, and they're bringing offers to the table.
Just on the tariffs, what are the logistics for imposing those? Does the president have to sign an executive order tonight? What's the timing of that?
Yes, and he will be signing an executive order at some point this afternoon or later this evening. And as always, we'll keep you posted when that happens, and it will be released from our office.
And there's some of these countries that have they all had contact with U.S. officials, or are there some countries that are going to get letters that have had no opportunity to negotiate with the United States?
Well, there's a lot of countries that I know have reached out. I believe it's upwards of 200 countries around the world have reached out to the trade and tariff team. Of course, as I said previously and the president said, we're going to prioritize our key trading partners, which we have done. Like I said, of the 18, 2/3 of those we have cut these tailor-made deals with. But I do know that the trade team has been working around the clock to try to be in correspondence with as many countries as possible. But if they haven't heard from us yet, they will in the form of a letter or an executive order by midnight tonight. We'll go to the back. Sure, go ahead. In the back left.
Thank you.
Amanda, yes.
Thank you very much.
Anna.
Thanks, Caroline. For the countries that don't have a deal yet, should we be looking at the April 2nd chart at all? Or is he negotiating and talking about having a set tariff rate, 10%, 20%?
Those discussions are taking place with the trade team today, and again, we'll provide further guidance with that executive order once it is signed, and the answer to that question will be in that executive order.
Is he looking to provide any more extensions today after his phone call with Mexico? Is there any other conversations like that?
I do know that other foreign leaders around the world have reached out, and if the president decides to share the conclusions of those calls with all of you, he will do so himself. But I do want to reiterate what the president said about Mexico. Mexico is still paying tariffs. They're paying a 25% tariff on fentanyl, 25% tariff on cars, a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, and copper. And additionally, Mexico has agreed to immediately terminate its non-tariff trade barriers, of which there are many. And as the president said, we will continue to talk to Mexico over the next 90 days with the goal of signing a larger trade deal. The key to this, again, is Mexico has agreed to terminate those non-tariff barriers and to continue to work with us in good faith. Mexico is a very unique situation of all the other countries around the world because, of course, we share our southern border with Mexico, which we've seen an increase in cooperation between Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum and our administration on clamping down on drug trafficking and human trafficking at the southern border. We appreciate those efforts and will continue to work in good faith and to continue to have these trade discussions as well. Joey.
Now, that's important because Canada's problem is this socialist leftist problem. Drugs are a problem. We're one of the world's largest distributors. I mean, China just sends all of the precursors down here. We, cut them, destroy our own nation, send precursors down to the States, and in some cases, the actual processed drug. But Canada's worst problem, the thing that bugs the Americans the most, this isn't just the Republican administration. This is also the Democratic administration, is the level of terror lords that cross the border. It's like 900% of the terror lords multiplied come from Canada, then down in Mexico. With the millions upon millions that were crossing the Mexican border, Canada still had more terror lords crossing into the States than Mexico did. Think about that. And think about where these terror lords come from. Oh, right, they are the insane part. The crazy Islamists. They're not the good Muslims. They are the psycho Muslims.
So we finally got a good deal. We remain as we are, and it's 90 days to keep talking, dialoguing, and building a long-term agreement. What we're looking for is that in front of this international situation, Mexico keeps the treaty, a good commercial relationship with the United States as a trade partner. So I think in this sense, it's a very good agreement to remain as we are and continue working.
We're getting closer to the treaty, USMCA renovation. It seemed very difficult, and today I think this is a very good progress. It's not only a deferral, but a very favorable condition for Mexico compared to any other country.
I do know that other foreign leaders.
Caroline, two questions. So what Hamas hardens its position and Israel provides aid? Do you have any new information on the hostages that need aid too? And second question, we heard President Trump criticize President Macron and Prime Minister Starmer for their statement about recognizing a Palestinian state. What is the president's position on recognizing a Palestinian state, and will he recognize Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria?
I can answer both of those questions for you. On the second question about a Palestinian state, the president expressed his displeasure and his disagreement with the leaders of France, the United Kingdom, and Canada. He feels as though that's rewarding Hamas at a time where Hamas is the true impediment to a ceasefire and to the release of all of the hostages. So to your first question, the president wants to see all of the hostages released. He cares deeply about this. He has met with many of the former hostages, many of the families of those who have loved ones who are still being held hostage in Gaza. I have met with them too. It is absolutely devastating what these poor people have been through, and the president is always thinking about them, and that's why he's designated his special envoy Steve Witkoff, who's doing a tremendous job to release the hostages and to end this conflict. But the president has always said the last remaining hostages, now there are 20 living hostages in Gaza, will always be the hardest because Hamas is unfortunately using these innocent people as bargaining chips. But nevertheless, we are committed to seeing this come to an end.
Say it again.
If Canada moves forward with recognizing the Palestinian state, is that a deal breaker?
Well, we're going to see. No, I didn't like what they said, but that's their opinion. I didn't like that. Not a deal breaker, but we haven't spoken to Canada today. He's called, and we'll see. But we have made a few deals today that are excellent deals for the country. You know, we're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country. This is making our country very rich and respected again. We have, I tell these people, and I say it as much as I have to say it, but every leader is at NATO, and I was in the Middle East with the three great countries, three great leaders. Qatar, you know, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and everybody said the same thing. All of the NATO countries, essentially, they said that we were a dead country. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world. Look at you people. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're doing great. Yeah, do you have a...
Canada currently.
Do you have a...
Canada currently. What's the holdup with the negotiations with Canada?
Well, they have to pay a fair rate. That's all. It's very simple. They have been charging very, very high tariffs to our farmers, some over 200%. And they've been treating our farmers very badly. They've been treating our country very badly for years. And look, we like Canada. I love Canada. I have so many friends in Canada. But they've been very poorly led. They've been very, very poorly led. And all we want is fairness for our country. That's all. You know, they want to be under the, as we call it, the Golden Dome. And I said, well, you know, you're going to have to pay for that. They want a lot of things from our country, and for years we did it. We basically protect them with our military. They spend very little money on their military, as you know. Not an acceptable amount of money. Yeah, please. Yeah, going to Israel, and then he's going to Russia, believe it or not.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that what is occurring there is a genocide. Do you agree?
Oh, it's terrible what's occurring there, yeah. It's a terrible thing. People are very hungry. You know, the United States gave $60 million for food, and...
Listen carefully. I'm going to show and prove what he's saying later in this episode.
It's a shame because nobody, you know, I don't see the results of it, and we gave it to people that in theory are watching over it fairly closely. We wanted Israel to watch over it. Part of the problem is Hamas is taking the money and they're taking the food. But we gave $60 million a couple of weeks ago. Nobody said anything about it. Nobody said thank you, but I didn't need the thank you. I just wanted the people to get fed, and we're helping out financially with that situation. It's a terrible situation. So just to conclude, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank you for being here.
Now, let's move on to a little history lesson about what Trump was just talking about.
New details tonight of Israel's accusations that UN workers took part in the October 7th terrorist attack. Multiple sources confirmed to ABC News Israel sent a dossier to foreign capitals alleging at least 12 workers for the UN's largest aid agency in Gaza, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, participated in Hamas's rampage. The 5-page intelligence report accuses some of the UN workers of kidnapping while placing others at the scene of massacres, and at least one moved weapons for Hamas. The UN has not denied the claims, but they say that they have fired those employees. Joining us now to discuss this is the executive director.
And
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is vowing to take action against any UN employee involved in, quote, acts of terror. This comes after allegations by Israel that some UNRWA staffers were involved in the October 7th Hamas attack that killed nearly 1,200 people. In a statement released Sunday, Guterres also promised a review of the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees. However, he called on governments to continue supporting the UN body after at least 9 countries, including Canada, paused funding. Since the start of the Gaza war, more than 2.3 million Palestinians have been relying on aid provided by UNRWA.
Canada did this because we got busted, which I'm going to show you a little bit of evidence later. We're just going to keep going through with this history lesson.
Extremely serious allegations which implicate several UNRWA staff members in the terror attacks of October 7th in Israel. The Secretary General is horrified by this news and asked Mr. Lazzarini to investigate this matter swiftly and to ensure that any UNRWA employee shown to have participated or abetted in what transpired on October 7th or in any other criminal activity be terminated immediately and referred for potential criminal prosecution.
While all this was going on, they were hiding and burning documents. There was a lot more internal, well, we'll just say, complacency on what was going on. There are numerous countries that are funding all different types of these left-wing lunatics, not just Hamas. It went right down to ISIL. It went down to Al-Qaeda. I mean, heck, our government just gave money to the new leader of Syria, who is currently genociding 3 different types of Christian sects, Jewish sects, and part of anything that deals with that, which is Protestants, Catholics, and all the rest of them. And who is this new leader? Oh, he was the leader of Al-Qaeda. But now he's a good guy. Right.
Several Western countries, including the US, UK and Germany, have decided to withhold funding to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinians. This after Israel accused 12 UNRWA employees of being involved in the October 7th attack. Philip Lazzarini, the head of the UN Relief and Works Agency, has expressed shock over the decision by the Western nations. He has asked representatives of the nations to reconsider this decision, terming the decision a stain on all parties involved and additional collective punishment on Gazans. Now, earlier, the UN...
See how they turn it? Oh, but please give us the money. First we argued, and we said, no way, Israel's lying. Then it was proven real. Oh, you can't blame. Oh, come on. We still need our money. We have other organizations that still need to get funding too, you know.
The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees on Friday said it has opened an investigation into several employees suspected of involvement in the October 7th attacks in Israel by Hamas, and that it has severed ties with those staff members. But
finally they were forced to do something.
Philippe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA, did not disclose the number of employees alleged.
Why? Why didn't he? And why didn't they open up all of the paperwork? I wonder. Now, you gotta remember, this isn't just, this goes across all scopes. All scopes. It isn't just one country. Many of you may have watched a movie called The Whistleblower. Rachel Weisz starred in it. Hollywood and a whole bunch of the elite tried to not allow, but they kind of stopped any type of promoting on it. All of these millionaires who own a lot of the theaters and the production agencies and the ticket sales didn't talk about it. We saw this with another movie here not far ago about trafficking children.
24 years ago, as a 28-year-old mother, divorced with 3 children. Perhaps even earlier, as everything I've done in my life seems to have prepared me for the next step. In 1989, I joined the Lincoln, Nebraska Police Force and graduated from the Nebraska Law Enforcement Academy. During my 10 years as a police investigator, I specialized in child sex crimes and domestic violence. I was no stranger to evildoers and violence being perpetrated against women and children. In 1999, I would be heading off to Bosnia as an international police force task member. I certainly never expected to be terminated less than 2 years later and find myself in a foreign country fighting to save my reputation as a police officer and defend my integrity and honesty against a multi-billion-dollar United States private government contractor. Since that time, I've been standing in front of audiences around the globe describing my experiences within the United Nations mission. The film and the book have allowed me to share my findings and the stories of the victims in an effort to educate the naive and expose the injustices perpetuated both abroad and here in the United States, where injustices can only be described as a disease.
Now, I urge you to watch the movie. The kicker to this is read the comments. As a Romanian woman, I'm extremely grateful for her hard work and courage. I am truly grateful. Thank you so much. Caitlin Bolkovic, you are a hero. For all of humanity, thank you. This amazing film is free on Amazon Prime. Shocking, but it should be seen by everyone. It goes on and on. The UN people, they knew what was going on. They were part of the cover-up. They deal with third-party agencies that are owned and ran by multi-million-dollar corporations. These are supposed NGOs, non-government organizations. It's money laundering. Money laundering. And it is not there helping people. They are raking both ends of the yard. They are helping the criminals and making money from that, and they are taking money from taxpayers and countries. And the countries know it and do nothing. Pardon my phone, something must be going on. Now, on to our useless, sellout, propaganda-made new leader of the, well, turd liberal socialist party.
The trade negotiations with the U.S., as you know, we're seeking the best deal for Canadians. We have not yet reached that deal. Negotiations will continue until we do. Minister LeBlanc and senior officials will remain in Washington in pursuit of that goal. The focus of our meeting was really the Middle East. The level of human suffering in Gaza is intolerable.
Now, so Trump posted this. Wow, Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada.
Earlier this week, the Minister of Foreign Affairs represented Canada at the UN high-level conference on a two-state...
She is a schmuck, by the way.
...solution in New York. In recent days, I've spoken with our allies, including President Macron, Prime Minister Starmer, President von der Leyen. We've also had a number of discussions with our ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Ray. International cooperation is essential to securing lasting peace and stability in the Middle East, and Canada will do its best to help lead that effort. Canada has long been committed to a two-state solution. An independent, viable, and sovereign Palestinian state living side by side with the state of Israel in peace and security.
This is history repeating itself. I'm all for the two-state solution. But you don't do the same thing that governments have been doing over and over and over, expecting a different result. This is, as Einstein says, the definition of insanity. So, is he insane? Or is the Liberal Party aware they are repeating the same thing so they can launder more money to these organizations to keep spreading fear, hate, and division? And who are they flooding Canada with, by the way? Right.
There is no shortage of humanitarian supplies going into Gaza is beyond.
Check it out. I have got hundreds, if not thousands, of different videos, live footage feed from real Palestinians and, of course, Israelis and a whole bunch of others who are down there who are showing, and I've shown on previous episodes, all of this food rotting in the sun.
Cynical. It is absolutely inappropriate. It ought to be completely condemned. We in Israel know well the true colours of the United Nations when it comes to their operations inside the Gaza Strip. Hamas gets to have a say, and it is clearly saying no. The Israel Defense Forces has implemented daily humanitarian pauses that are going to run from about 10 o'clock in the morning until 8 p.m. each day until further notice. Now, what the viewers should understand is that that's actually instructive about the status of the fighting inside the Gaza Strip. And that type of operational activity and that operational cadence actually strongly resembles the way in which we operate in other arenas, such as Judea and Samaria or the West Bank.
Now, like I said, I've got lots to go through. The video clip, in its entirety, as all of the information I give you is accessible in the description below.
For the reasons I cited earlier, Canada intends to recognize the State of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This
announced today.
Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the State Department reported to Congress that the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, and Palestinian Authority, PA, are not in compliance with their commitments under the PLO Commitments Compliance Act of 1989 and the Middle East Peace Commitments Act of 2002. In response, the United States is imposing sanctions that deny visas to PLO members and PA officials in accordance with Section 604A1 of the Middle East Peace Commitments Act. These actions reflect our national security interests and our commitment to holding the PLO and PA accountable for undermining the prospects for peace.
It's good to say that, look, these are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August. But we'll see. The team's there. We're working hard. Conversations today, myself. So we'll see. There are, and the specific aspect of the question included a reference to the European Union deal, and could our accord with the United States include commitments on investments and other aspects? And I just observed that there are many areas for cooperation between Canada and the United States, including defense spending, security spending, investments, which is one of the reasons why we're having these broader discussions.
Next up, so Paul Dutch, Global News. Speaking of the United States, did you consult with the U.S. about your decision to recognize Palestine, and can the sustainable peace process work without U.S. being on side?
Look, the United States is the essential partner in peace in the Middle East, and in virtually in many parts of the world. And we've seen that demonstrated. First point. Second point is that the president does take a direct interest in resolving conflicts, and as has with respect to a broader set of developments in the Middle East. And so again, the United States, this president, will play and continue to play a central role. Others have responsibilities, Canada included, responsibilities on the humanitarian side, responsibilities with governance and other aspects that we're supporting. And we make our own independent foreign policy positions. And when we see opportunities, when we see necessity, which is what we see in this case, given the retreat of the prospect of a two-state solution because of the facts on the ground, as I explained, when we see that possibility and we see the combination of an ability to influence because of our own voice and actions, but because of others and other processes that are being put in place. But to be absolutely clear, and I'll finish on this point, which is, I referenced earlier an E3 plan, that early stages peace plan. I talked to Prime Minister Starmer about it, President Macron as well today. Prime Minister Starmer, this public domain, briefed the President of the United States about the plan a few days ago. So there are connections all the way through, and my colleague obviously in regular contact with her, homologue. Sorry. Yeah.
You said you came to this decision independently, so you're saying you would have come to this without France or the UK making this decision?
No, look, I meant independent of the United States. But yes, it does matter that others are moving. It does matter because it increases the prospect of success.
No. It interlinks and exposes that if somebody was to do it alone, they stand out. This is how all of these hidden agendas protect themselves. It's like a gang as opposed to one. When one idiot stands up in the bar and, he's talking schmack and the other guy sets him straight, there's one-on-one, it kind of ends, that's the end of it. But not when that guy walks out of the bar, the loudmouth who is instigating comes along with 10 of his friends, catch the other guy in the back alley, and then boot kick him. That's what's going on. We're going to repeat history over and over and over again because all of these countries, and it's getting worse, and we're seeing the chaos, we're seeing the wars, we're seeing the flooding of our countries, the starvation in our own countries, the homelessness in our own countries. This is all an agenda. Again, you will own nothing, you will be happy. This guy is delusional. And with the help of his propaganda, which is going on right now, they're pushing how this is a good thing. And they bring out every now and then a couple. Kenny just did one here. I'm not going to run him. Even though he spoke a few good truths about what's going on, Kenny's a schmuck.
But the core of the decision is taken on the principle that of self-determination and the rights of people to self-determination. We have long, Canada, speaking for Canada now, have long felt that this should come later in a process, and that our recognitions, other recognitions, the state of Palestine, should come at a point of maximum impact during a peace process. We're now at a position, I'm sorry to repeat myself, where in our judgment and the judgment of others...
Oh, there's the backing. There's the backing.
Is that the prospect of a Palestinian state is literally receding before our eyes, or being eroded before our eyes. And so the act of the intention to recognize, which is what we're saying today, and working with others to support a Palestinian state, possibility of Palestinian state, reestablishes that opportunity.
David Turton, CBC.
U.S. trade talks. Is there any evidence that a deal with the U.S. is possible without tariffs on aluminum and steel?
On aluminum and steel? Look, I think I'd answer it this way, which is that the president has been very clear, and all the actions bear this out, and that there are certain sectors that are strategic in their judgment to the United States economy: aluminum, steel, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, lumber falls under 232 as well, the so-called 232 authority, and potentially one or two more. The U.S. approach, the revealed approach of the United States in all those sectors, has been to have tariffs, some base level of tariffs, and that's consistent. That's consistent across with very few relatively minor exceptions. So if we're speaking in general terms,
elbows up.
Those are the priors. That's the case. Obviously, in any broader deal, there are gives and takes, and there's various factors. But I think we have to recognize that in the strategic sectors, again, as defined by the United States, what's strategic to them, that they have tariffs.
Okay. And just coming back to the recognition of a Palestinian state and the conditions that, well, the assurances, excuse me, that you've been given by the Palestinian Authority, elections, reform.
Now, this is propaganda. This is, of course, CBC.
Reforms, non-militarization. Just coming back to that issue of elections, how do you expect them to hold elections in Gaza when you see the devastation?
Yeah.
And
what? This same PLO has been in power for 16 years. They started with the 4-year term. They have never given the people the chance for elections. How about start with the truth, the absolute truth about what goes on in and with the backing of the PLO. PLO Central Council recommends suspending recognition of Israel 7 years ago.
Suspend recognition of Israel, suspend security coordination with it, and unite the Palestinian factions through reconciliation.
Ah, right. How about what they teach all of the children?
The education minister in the Gaza Strip has confirmed that the Palestinian political and paramilitary group Hamas have added anti-Semitic courses to their school curriculum. The Hamas minister said that studies to encourage resistance to Israel and to strengthen Palestinian rights would be taught in secondary schools. The comments follow news that Hamas has introduced new school textbooks which do not recognize Israel and claim that all the land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River should be considered Palestinian. Misleading and false descriptions of historical events, including the 1993 Oslo Accords and last year's Operation Pillar of Defense, feature in the school textbooks. The Hamas school books also refer to Zionism as a racist movement.
Pretty young, aren't they? Dressed in PLO clothing. Interesting.
Hamas has wasted no time in indoctrinating the minds of young children who have been recruited to hate Israel. Young babies and toddlers dressed as suicide bombers, wearing bomb belts or parading with toy guns, all in the name of jihad and martyrdom.
This is 18 years ago,
Pictures are a
people,
chilling
this
reminder
clip.
of how Hamas indoctrinates the young and incites them to violence and makes them believe that that is the only answer to solve the Palestinian future.
And again, I post all these links. You can click on them. You can watch them. I've been watching this my whole life. I wasn't really aware of how dark and infiltrated Palestine was until I became very close friends with two incredible real Palestinians who showed me not only the scars on their bodies, the evidence of what was really going on there. And they went to rescue their families, and the PLO and Hamas made sure they ended their lives. We're going to repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And we're going to send money there? We're going to send piles of money there? Or are these, like, really?
I believe it is a mistake for Canada to join France and the UK. This is, in a way, a reward for terrorism. It won't help. After everything they did in the kibbutzim and the communities near Gaza border, on October 7th, 2023, to all the Israelis who were murdered, slaughtered, raped, and taken hostage, this is a reward, and it's a serious mistake.
I think this is a mistake, especially at a time like this. There is no reason Hamas should receive a reward for its terrorism in the form of a Palestinian state. I think that the solution, eventually, between Israel and the Palestinians needs to be diplomatic, but after what happened on October 7th, it will take a lot of time. A generation needs to pass, maybe even two, to reach proper and just interim agreements.
These people know. And so do real Palestinians, real believers of the Quran, real Muslims who understand other faiths. What has our country become? And this is where we now key into, well, the reality of the situation. Ryan Garrison posted this. I was going to show you the real clip, but he came up first, and Ryan's always got great stuff, so I'm going to share his name on this. The fastest way to end a humanitarian crisis in Gaza is for Hamas to surrender and release all the hostages. They're not going to do that. And even if they did, they're going to make sure they're embedded dark and deep, like they already are, in the Palestinian government. The same government that our glorious Liberal Party is going to give recognition and say you're a legitimate government. They're all infiltrated. Evil begets evil. And then there's Canada.
Incoming money in Canada. They've worried about various operations, including some money exchange operations in Toronto. And the concern is that these operations are a conduit for illegal funds being sent by the Iranian regime to Canada for nefarious ends. We don't actually know why this money is being sent or what it's being used for, but we're very concerned about it, and we're glad that Global has done this investigation, because we hope that this finally means that the authorities are going to take our concerns seriously. There are various concerns that community members have. First of all, community members are concerned that their family members can't come visit them. They're concerned that they can't get small sums of money from Iran, and yet people with links to the government, links to the Revolutionary Guards, can come to Canada easily and bring large sums of money. So that in itself is unfair. Secondly, members of our community are concerned that this money is being put to improper use. It's being put to use in influencing Canadian politicians. It's being put to use in terms of intimidating activists and the dissemination of false news throughout our community. So I think the concern is that this...
And it goes on. Canada's anti-Semitism envoy resigns, citing exhaustion amid hate surge. Yes, July 30th. Yeah. What was announced? Oh, right, our government has completely surrendered our entire nation to the radical Islamic regimes. I faced a lot of hate out there myself, a lot of nasty words and some actions, says outgoing anti-Semitism Special Envoy Deborah Lyons. Anti-Semitism in Canada surged following Hamas's October 7, 2023 massacre in Israel, culminating in a record 290 hate crimes targeting Jewish just last year. The spike in incidents prompted Deborah Lyons and the country's special envoy in preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism to step down earlier this month, citing exhaustion from waking up every day to a fight. Lyons told the Canadian Jewish News last week that the job was one that tore at you physically and emotionally. I mean, I faced a lot of hate out there myself, a lot of nasty words, and in some cases, actions, she said. I would say that during this period, these last 2 years, I finally really quite amazed and often become quite despondent and despairing about the fact that it was hard to get people to speak up, to speak out with clarity, to speak with conviction about what we were seeing happening here on Canadian soil, she added. Erwin Kotler, a former Canadian Justice Minister and Lyons' predecessor as Special Envoy on Anti-Semitism, told Fox Digital an explosion in Jew hatred has been met not with broad condemnation, but with silence, denial, acquiescence, support, and justification. The government can't just virtue signal or be performative. It needs to act, Kotler said. That's something Deborah had to contend with. She's a very loyal civil servant, and I'm sure it was difficult for her, disheartening even, to see the government not moving as quickly, effectively, or decisively as the mandate required. Although Jews make up less than 1% of Canada's population, 18.8% of all reported hate crimes in 2024 were motivated by anti-Semitism. And the worst part is they are importing, purposely flooding Canada with radical Islamic people, unvetted, flooding us with them. And now I've shown often on many different shows what's going on in the streets, but I want you to pay close attention to this. This is just again propaganda. When you study it long enough, the eyes and ears, all of the senses are set off. You get a tingling sensation. You pick up on all the little things. Now, this is a video released by the Edmonton Police. I see this 50 times a day. In all of this vast increases in crime, I've reported on it previous episodes, like the Calistanis and a few other organizations that have completely taken over our nation. Watch carefully and tell me, do your eyes pick up what I see? What do you see in the back seat? Recognize the scarf? Recognize his handkerchief? Huh. And now on to part 2 of what I was discussing at the very, very beginning of this episode, where Canada is going. So, before I actually get real deep into this aspect, I want to post a few more links for my viewing audience. What lies underneath a deeper look into what IRFRAN, Canada's revocation file. These are all accusations of charities that have been distributing money. Yes, Canada is a major supporter of terrorism around the world. Canada has become a hub of Islamic terror financing. There's a full podcast in the link below. We've tried to push through and enact criminal law to protect people in churches. We kind of had one, which the Liberal Party decimated. Churches and other organizations tried to stand up, seeing what was going on purpose. The bill will amend the criminal code and repeal several obsolete or redundant criminal offenses now considered redundant by the government in Section 176 of the code, which prohibits obstructing a clergyman or minister from celebrating divine service or performing any other function in connection with his calling, or disturbing an assemblage of persons who have met for religious worship. Again, I post all the links. Bill C-51. The fascist Liberal Party's bill. But the Conservatives, they did try. They tried. They tried to pass Bill C-411. Did this pass? No. Who voted against it? That would be the Socialist and the other Socialist Party, the NDP and the Liberals. And down it went. So, no protecting faith. No protecting faith communities. No protecting churches, no stopping people from protesting outside, chanting evil things. All of these rules that we have, these freedoms, are all abolished, have all been tainted and tarnished and twisted in the last 10 years. The same people who are standing behind, yes, Anita and Nand, the schmuck, who's standing behind Carney with that little grin, voted for all of it. And now Carney's saying he's going to come out and he's going to bring rules? What about all the churches that burnt down? When you have a leader who goes, oh, can't blame him. Brainwashing, propaganda. Pushing Canada deeper and deeper until we're on the cliff. We're already down the hill into fascism. In the meantime, the media just keeps on spewing the propaganda. making Carney look like he's some type of a savior. Yes, some savior. Really. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to share another link as well for that Deborah Lyons. This is another better link. Do you remember exactly what I went through at the beginning of the episode? This is one of the MPs who just got busted, who got a minister's position. That, again, previous episodes, funding terror, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil, Elim, and their criminal activities in Canada and the Western world. Again, another link. Please enjoy. Enjoy. I love searching all this out and giving all of my audience the access to the truth. Sorry, so sorry. Just the facts, just the truth. So, where's Canada? Canada's economy is treading water after the GDP dropped for its second straight month. We've been in a recession. They say a recession for at least a year and 3 months. They've been saying this. And before that, economists were already saying this is 2.5 years ago. In fact, it started before the Wuhan virus and then kind of got washed away because of all the money spending and all the laundering and gifted, friends and family of the Liberal Party as they ripped Canada off. And now all of a sudden it's back again. Well, if you actually work out what economists call it, a recession to a depression, we're in a depression. What were the little things that Hitler used in order to take power and completely strip individuals of their rights? Right. Well, a bombed economy. How many homeless people have we got living here? Well, in estimations between 30 and 35,000. And then when you read a few articles on it, you realize this is bonkers wrong. There's no real way, because of the way Canada does its statistics, to know. There's a couple really good articles on it. What's the true number of Canada's homeless population? Well, if you actually look through and, go through all of the information, you can multiply that number by 30. Think about that. Even by 10, that's 350,000. We have more homeless people in Canada. Theoretically, there's no way to really prove it because our government is so good at lying and withholding proper statistics, kind of like they do unemployment, than there are in Gaza. And let's not forget,
food insecurity isn't hidden at nonprofits trying to keep up with demand. This affordable produce market has more than doubled its patrons in 5 months of operation.
I see real life every day of people struggling and being hungry and being so grateful that a service like ours exists.
The disconnect between what those like Mandy Chapman see firsthand and Canada's official poverty rate of roughly 7% prompted a deeper dive into the problem.
7%, you say?
What we're seeing on the ground is sort of, we feel should be reflected in what is being used to monitor progress in poverty reduction.
So experts went beyond just income and essentials and used what's called a material deprivation index. They factored in whether people can afford the things others take for granted, like owning a pair of well-fitted shoes, buying a small gift for family or friends once a year, or participating in special occasions. In the end, the report revealed Canada's hidden poverty rate of 25%.
1 in 4 live in poverty. 1 in 6 live in extreme poverty. 1 in 10 is actually starving, is being tortured every day by a lack of food.
You're looking at close to 10 million people. And, that's 6 million more than the official poverty rate.
The study also found 30% of young people, more than 44% of single-parent households, and 42% of renters can't afford at least 2 of the items on the deprivation list. And almost 24% are employed.
I think this really
24% of those living within this index are employed and are living in poverty. And then the biggest bomb, drum roll maestro, more than 74,000 Canadians have died on healthcare wait lists since 2018. At least 15,000 Canadians died while waiting for surgery or a diagnostic scan over the course of a year, according to the government data collected by public policy think tank Second Street. 15,000 in a year. The true figure for the fiscal year 23-24 is likely nearly double, owing to a huge hole in the data, said Second Street President Colin Craig. Missing are data from Quebec, Alberta, Newfoundland and Labrador, and most of Manitoba. The government health bodies that did not respond to Freedom of Information requests represented 62% of the population. If the findings from the provinces that did give us data are extrapolated across provinces that didn't, the total rises to closer to 28,000 people a year. Again, article posted below. I'm here to give you information, just the truth, just the truth, just the facts. Now, with all of this going on, our government is giving how much money to other countries? We are literally a third world nation. If you take all of the stats, we fall right on that fine line of a third world nation. We're not civilized enough to take care of our own people. This isn't necessarily the people's fault. This is because of the government. And this is all gone completely out of control since the new liberals, the turd liberals, the WEF liberals, the Carney liberals have taken power. You will know nothing, you will be happy. You will be ruled. Have you ever seen what it's like on most of the reserves in Canada? Canada is not just broken, it's being shattered. Our government is on the wrong side of history. We, through 2 world wars, our citizens were jumping on planes, trains, and automobiles and ships to get overseas to go fight the good fight. Now our military is completely decimated, flooded with wokeism. All of the real leaders have been falsely accused and charged through our own government of course, what liberals like to charge with, sexual allegations and all the rest of it, who all of them have, for some reason, found not guilty. Our government is the same as Hitler's party was. And again, previous episodes, take it right from a Holocaust survivor. I break down one of her amazing speeches, God rest her soul, where she gives a list of everything a country has to watch for. And we're scratching them off faster than you could ever scratch a lottery ticket. And propaganda is their true power. Please, like, share, and subscribe. Get the facts out. If you are subscribed, please punch that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Until the next time, I'm so embarrassed at our government. I can't believe what they just did. but I'm not surprised because I've seen it coming. I'm Alias the Guy. You've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. Stay informed.